All right, let's talk about this. On May 5th, Rio Vista Police Department did a vehicle stop on a vehicle for expired registration. It went ugly. They ended up arresting a bunch of people. And then on May 6th, KXTV 10 in Sacramento did a news story on the incident in which they titled their news story, "Video Shows Woman Getting Body Slammed by Rio Vista Police Officer During Traffic Stop." So, in typical news media fashion, they broadcast everything that the supposed victim and her mom had to say. And they played them out to be the entire victim in this whole incident. And then the only thing they offered from the law enforcement standpoint was a comment. They read a written comment by the chief of police of the Rio Vista Police Department. So, tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and play the unedited KXTV 10 news story on this from the beginning of it up until they're done interviewing the people involved. I'm not going to get into their discussion about Facebook comments and stuff afterwards. So here it is. Watch this, and then we'll talk about it.
This cell phone video shows the chaotic moments right before a Rio Vista police officer throws a woman to the ground.
Oh, no. No.
Deshauna Payne was the woman recording. She's the mother of 31-year-old Sharice Thomas, who was thrown to the ground in that video.
2 black eyes, and then she has bruising and scrapes here and on one side of her face. Her inside leg here is messed up. It's all over the place.
So you might be wondering what led up to this point. She says her younger daughter was pulled over by police for suspended vehicle registration, and officers were threatening to impound her car. The traffic stop happened just blocks from her home, so she said she went with her other daughter to speak with police.
I mean, whenever my kids get pulled over, I come. I want to know what's going on. I want to know, I want to see everything.
Although the Rio Vista Police Department has a different take on what happened. In a statement from the Chief of Police, Dan Daly, he says the women confronted the officers, and despite repeated commands by the officers for the women to remain in their vehicle, they did not. Quote, they repeatedly approached the officers and attempted to push past them to get near the car and people originally detained in the vehicle stop. The police chief wrote. Officers then used force to arrest both of the women for interfering with the traffic stop and later for resisting arrest, though Payne says it never should have reached that point.
I would like to know what was his problem with 2 women asking questions that you were so violent and temper was just so there that you felt you needed to be physical. You needed to slam her to the ground. That just didn't make no sense to me.
Per department policy, the Rio Vista Police Department says it'll conduct an internal investigation into the officer's use of force. The department also plans to release body-worn camera video from both officers later this week.
So, since KXTV 10 aired that news story, this video has hit everywhere across the nation. I had people, I posted a comment, shared their news story yesterday, and shared my comments on it. And talked about how irresponsible it was of them to just broadcast this these 2 women's version of what supposedly occurred without any commentary about what from a law enforcement perspective, other than the comment by the chief. The news stations really need to get somebody who's a law enforcement expert on staff to comment on this stuff, because they are just making it matters worse. So. This video aired on May 6th. The incident was on May 5th. Today is May 8th. I would have done a video yesterday, except living out here in the country, my internet sucks, and it took me about 6 hours just to download the body cam video, which has been released. So I won't get into the very obvious lies that these 2 women are telling until we'll look at the video later, and we'll compare the news story to what they actually did and said at the stop. But I want to talk about the media. They go out and interview these people, and this has happened hundreds of times. Most notably, one of the biggest lies that the media perpetuated was the hands up, don't shoot from the Michael Brown Ferguson incident. You would think they would learn by now, and I'm sure they know better, but they're just doing this. They put this completely biased, one-sided story out there that makes the cops look bad and gets everybody all pissed off because it's good for ratings, which is good for money. So, getting beyond that, I hate the friggin' media because they do this constantly. So, all right, let's take a look at some body cam footage from this. First off, I'm sorry. Let me discuss one thing, and I'll replay a clip of it here.
2 black eyes, and then she has bruising and scrapes here and on one side of her face. Her inside leg here is messed up. Just it's all over the place.
So, that is the mother talking about the older daughter's supposed injuries that she received from this body slam when the officer took her to the ground. Black eyes. Black eyes don't heal overnight. She got body slammed, using their terms, on May 5th. This video is shot on May 6th. She supposedly got black eyes from this, yet she has absolutely no evidence of black eyes. Black eyes don't disappear in one day. She has a small abrasion above her left eye. That is the only visible injury that she has from this body slam. My guess is that injury probably occurred when the officer was holding her on the ground. You can see he has his hand on the back of her neck, head area, and is holding her down while he's trying to get control of her hands while she's flailing around on the ground. That's in his body cam footage. So, first off, the extent of her injuries is just completely exaggerated, and it shouldn't take some retired cop sitting here telling the news media that black eyes just don't disappear overnight. That should be something everybody understands. So they know that this is a falsehood, that this is a blatant lie that these people are telling, yet they let them tell it. All right, so let's look at some footage.
So where you have suspended registration.
Don't.
What was that?
I don't.
It's showing it's suspended.
I don't.
Thank you. The point is it's suspended, so they suspended your registration due to some kind of, maybe if you didn't have insurance at some point or something like that.
All right, so the traffic stop was completed because of expired registration. In the original approach, despite the horrific wind noise on the body cams, which is one of the downsides to body cam microphones, is they pick up all kinds of wind noise, so you lose some audio clarity as far as voices go. But they stopped the vehicle for expired registration. California DMV shows that the registration was revoked, and they said that it was revoked in 2018. California law says after 6 months, the vehicle being out of registration for 6 months, it should be towed. So the supposed threats to tow the vehicle weren't threats, that was just compliance with the law. The vehicle is, so let's talk about revoked registration. I don't know if other states have this. Having been a cop in California, I know this is somewhat of a recent thing for us. I mean, it's maybe 10 years. Before, it used to just be expired registration. Text from my wife. Please ignore that. It used to just be expired registration. Now, they can revoke your registration. So insurance companies, they electronically report to DMV if your vehicle's registered or not. If you drop your registration or you stop making payments on your, I'm sorry, not registration, you stop your insurance, you stop making payments on your insurance, the insurance company notifies DMV, DMV revokes your vehicle registration. You're not supposed to be driving uninsured cars on the road, so that's why DMV does that. DMV can also revoke your registration for other reasons. If you have certain criminal warrants, traffic warrants, they'll revoke your registration. If you have failed to make child custody payments or child support payments, they'll revoke your registration. if you have, say you're on probation for DUI and you have certain requirements, they can revoke your registration if you fail to do those. There's lots of reasons DMV can revoke your registration. It doesn't mean your fees haven't been paid. It means DMV is saying that you can no longer drive your vehicle because you're failing to do something that you're supposed to be doing. So the fact that the driver of the car is claiming that she's paid her registration is completely irrelevant to whether it's revoked or not. It's a valid vehicle stop. The registration was revoked. You can see, and if you want to watch, I'm going to put links to the raw video down here. There is a lot of it, multiple body cams, and probably almost an hour's worth of footage. It's not all going to go in this video, but you're free to review the video yourself. So the officer confirms multiple times with his dispatch that the vehicle is revoked registration, so it's no longer valid, and it's out more than 6 months, which means he's going to tow the car.
We're going to be towing the vehicle.
What? You're not towing? No.
Yeah.
No. What?
Suspended registration. I pulled you over for this suspended registration. Okay, then that's fine.
My registration was suspended. If it was suspended, I would not be able to get insurance.
It is suspended. I don't want you to stop worrying with me. Okay, well, it's being towed, so you're going to have to step out.
It's not.
He approaches the vehicle, tells him he's going to tow the car. The driver is completely non-compliant. No, you're not. You're not towing my car. This is BS, blah, blah, blah. Then all of a sudden, mom pulls up. Because, of course, first thing you do when you get pulled over by the cops is call mom and tell her to come over and help you.
They about to tow my car, Mom. Because they said my registration.
Ma'am, you need to wait for her right
No,
now.
that's my mom.
Yeah,
She don't need to go nowhere. Period. No.
That's huge, stupid mistake number one. Involving people that are not involved in a vehicle stop does nothing to make it go smoother, ever. So, mom and older sister show up, and this is what happens then. I'll throw some body cam footage of that in here. The totally victimized, I don't know why the cops were so harsh with us. Woe is us, we're the victim people here. So let's take a look at some of the woe is us, we're the victim footage.
Why is he in the car? What the fuck? Why is he getting arrested?
Because right now,
For what?
Ma'am, you need to stay in your car.
What?
You need to stay.
Shut up. No,
Don't tell me. Okay, ma'am, you need to go in your car before I arrest you for interfering in an investigation.
Investigation of what?
Because you're interfering in our process right now.
I'm trying to see what? Checking other people.
Okay, you need to get on the car.
Don't touch me. I swear. You
Wait,
move.
stay in the car. Stay in the car for a minute.
Investigation of what?
Okay.
No, I'm trying to see
Stay over
why
there.
you're checking other people.
Stay over though.
When she has proper, don't
You need to
touch
go over
me.
there. Well,
Don't
you need to
touch
walk
me.
away from this traffic stop.
Don't fucking touch
Then walk
me.
away.
Don't touch
Get in your
me.
car.
Don't touch me. I don't
Get
gotta
in your
do
car.
shit. No,
Yes, you
know
do.
what? No.
Get in your car. Oh, no, she can't.
Yes, you can.
Get in your car.
No.
Get out of here. Go. Get in your car.
Bye. I
Go.
can stay right here.
Get in your car.
Sheriff, get in the car. No, I don't have to. Get in the car, Sheriff. I don't gotta go nowhere. I can stand right here and what? You're not even supposed to be talking.
Who's he? He was in the car?
You are male. Touching her.
I'm all right.
You
I
are
got nothing to do with that.
What you
Yeah, for what?
touching her
For what?
for? Both of y'all.
Back up.
I'm gonna back up tonight.
Let them show your
Come with me.
What's your badge number? What's your badge number?
Huh? I'll show all that.
No.
No one else in the car.
So what they being
Okay, you guys need to get out of the road. You guys are going to be staying in the car too.
Bitch, shut up.
Go. Get out of here. Let's go.
All right, I'm gonna watch first.
Get in your
I'm
car.
gonna sit right here
Get in
in
your
my
car.
car and watch.
I hope you do. Get
I
in your
sure
car.
am.
Get in your car.
I sure am. I sure am.
Would they be, girl, you
Close
don't
it.
in
Thank
the
you.
car. Bitch, period. Would they be
Okay,
detained for?
you guys need to get out of here or y'all gonna be arrested.
I'm being shit.
Trash, get in the car.
Start inventory it.
If you would, exactly. What are they being detained for? Exactly. Nothing. Nothing. What are they being detained for? Stupid. You're done. Just like him. Both of y'all done.
Solano 702 28. David Charles Henry 284.
Stupid. Stupid. You in here. Fucking done. Stupid. Bitch.
Registration, but the registration
It's been recording this whole fucking time.
insurance, so
Her phone been
this
recording.
is the result
I
of
didn't
it.
even know.
The 4 people being detained. So he says, for what? I don't know.
Don't come close to me.
But okay.
You ain't coming over by our cars right now.
I'm not by you.
You can stay away. We're okay.
Okay.
You need to go this way.
First of all, so now I can get you're manhandling my daughter. Really? No.
702. Give me 33. Back up. Back up.
No.
Back up.
No.
Back up.
No. Get him off my daughter. Get him off my fucking daughter now.
Don't talk to me like that, man.
Get him off my daughter. No. Get him. No, you're not. Don't do it. Don't do it.
Yep, I can see where mom and older daughter here are totally the victims in this. They weren't confrontational at all. They absolutely did everything that the cops told them to do. They weren't interfering with the vehicle. Oh, wait a minute. That's all bullshit. They were completely lying. They were very confrontational. They were told repeatedly to stay in their car, to move away from the vehicle stop because they were interfering with the stop, which they absolutely are. The officers are already trying to deal with 4 people out of that vehicle, and now you got 2 more people showing up, running around, screaming, yelling, pushing officers, trying to push past officers, and completely disregarding lawful orders. So at some point, the cops go, screw this, we're arresting these 2. So the one officer goes hands-on with the daughter, the I got black eyes and I got body slammed victim here, and she starts flailing. He's trying to grab onto her arm so he can cuff her up, and she starts flailing and he can't get a hold of her arm. She's swinging her arms. You can see he's standing behind her. She's walking away, and he's trying to keep up with her. He can't get a hold of her arms, so he grabs her, dumps her on the ground. This is not a pile driver body slam like something out of the WWE or some sort of martial arts move. He just dumps her onto the ground, gets on top of her, and then finally gets control of her hands and cuffs her up. From one of the other videos, the other body cam video, you can watch, and I'll talk about that more in a second here, but at that point, mom flips out, and she gets taken to the ground as well. So, a couple of comments on my Facebook page when I shared the news story originally were, I'm a martial arts expert. That officer shouldn't have been able to do that. That was excessive force. So let's talk about the amount of force used. California law says, and federal law says, case law says that you can use that amount of force which is necessary to effect the arrest. So, first level of force is voice, speech, telling them, look, you're under arrest. If somebody complies at that point, no physical force is used. You put handcuffs on them and they go away. That's not what happened here. Second level of force is going to be hands-on. You grab them and you typically are going to get a hold of an extremity, arm, hand, and use some sort of a compliance hold, twist lock or an arm bar or something like that. You're going to either, if they start complying at that point, you might cuff them while they're standing, you might make them go kneeling, you might make them go prone. If they've been non-compliant, you're probably going to make them go prone because it's easier to control somebody on the ground. He can't get a hold of her arms. She's flailing around. The only thing he can get a hold of is her torso. That's why he takes her to the ground the way he did. Other people are commenting, well, he could have just, put his foot in front of her and tripped her. It's called a leg sweep. You can't do that from behind somebody while you're walking behind them. So that's typically done if you're standing and you're fighting with somebody and you guys aren't moving around. You can put a leg behind them and knock them to the ground. That's not what happened here. That's not a viable option for him to try and do a leg sweep to take her down. So it may look ugly. All uses of force look ugly. Twist locks look ugly depending on how the arrestee handles it. So if they start screaming and yelling and flopping around, it looks horrible. Every cop in the world has had a twist lock applied to them. It happens in training. That's how you learn how to do it. You do it on each other. It is not a violent move. It's just twisting the arm until it puts tension in the tendons and muscles. Causes a little pain. The person is supposed to comply. Not everybody does. So even that can look ugly. He dumped her on the ground because he couldn't get a hold of an extremity, an arm or a hand, to do a twist lock. That's why he took her to the ground. It looks ugly. It's not that big of a deal. He didn't throw any punches. He didn't do anything beyond that. He took her to the ground, held her on the ground, got a hold of her arms, and then he ended up cuffing her up. All right, so moving on from that, let's take a look at what happens with Mom. The person who's also... I'd also like to point out the fact that both of these women are claiming not only did they do nothing to have this happen to them, but they were both scared of the cops. Based on their behavior, it's clear that they are not scared of these officers. They're yelling, they're confronting them, they're pushing past them, they're cussing at them, they're calling them names. It's ridiculous. But hey, KXTV 10, according to them, these two women are the victim of the police. So I'm going to leave it at that. You can look at all the video you want. There will be a link to all the raw footage. Feel free. If you have comments, go ahead. If you're going to be like some of the folks on my Facebook page who I'm KKK racist, murdering black people cops. I'm an EMT. I'm not even a real cop. I'm an EMT bootlicker. Fuck the police. If you're going to be one of those people, don't bother commenting because your comments will just get deleted. If you actually would like to have a discussion about this, if you have questions about use of force, feel free to ask. I will do my best to monitor the comments and answer any questions in those comments. That's it. Hope you folks have a nice day. Oh, yeah, let me finish this off with screw the media and their cop-hating bullshit. This is what's causing cops to get ambushed and killed for no reason other than being a cop. Natalie Corona just recently in Davis. There was an officer just recently, oh God, it was a couple days ago, Mississippi, Biloxi, Mississippi. Somebody walked up to him, shot him, and killed him in the station parking lot. So it's because of the media pushing this cops are evil narrative. And you know what? Fuck the media. Anyway, that's it. Have a nice day.